Continue getting you the engagements that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is having with his New Zealand counterpart, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, at the delegation level talks. The both leaders discussed expanding cooperation, trade, defense, security, education, technology, agriculture and Indo-Pacific ties, while also emphasizing collaboration against terrorism and also boosting people-to-people exchanges. Both sides that have expressed confidence that the strengthened partnership would open new avenues for economic growth and regional cooperation. With trade and investment remaining the key pillars of the bilateral relationship, let's get you exactly what's on the agenda. Of course, when it comes to the free trade agreement, the follow-up on the trade push, then comes the defense and the security relations as well as the significant partner. Business and sport personality is also meeting. That is also an agenda that has been taken up. And of course, when it comes to the traditional Maori welcome that has been accorded to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, this visit that marks as a major milestone when we speak of the bilateral ties between India and New Zealand, that is expected to announce a strategic partnership that is going to elevate their relationship across trade, defense and sports. Now, alongside the proposed upgrade in ties, both sides are now working towards a possible free trade agreement, deeper defense cooperation in the Indo-Pacific as well. So that seems to be, let's connect with Srinjoy and Akansha on these angles because Srinjoy, Prime Minister Luxon has also described it as a historic milestone in the relationship, where he has made it clear that India and New Zealand have made rapid progresses on several agendas. But what does it mean when it comes to entering a new strategic partnership?
When you have a strategic partnership, it basically means that we are not only friends, but we are close friends who agree on a lot of things. And even when we don't agree on things, we agree to disagree on them. So this, it becomes the overarching agreement on the basis of that, you have closer ties in all the things that we have been talking about. Economic issues, maritime security issues, investment issues, all these things, people to people, very important, education, trade and sport. So all these issues come under that strategic partnership, because once you have a strategic partner, then you elevate your relationship. This is a way of saying that, look here, now that you're a strategic partner, we can do a lot of things that we would have hesitated to do in the past. So this shows a level of trust between the people of New Zealand and the people of India. And as a result, you are going to have serious trade ties with the New Zealanders. They will invest in India. Then serious maritime issues. Then when you are a strategic partner, you can have intelligence sharing, you can have interoperability, you can have heightened training, you can have an understanding of the world that we are in it together.
Absolutely. And this partnership that is expected to provide a broader framework when it comes to expanding cooperation beyond the proposed free trade agreement. We'll listen into what the Prime Minister has said, recalling the importance of the ties and why this visit is going to shape the next chapter for the Indo-Pacific stability.
मेरे लिए खुशी की बात है कि 40 साल के बाद भारत के प्रधानमंत्री का न्यूजीलैंड आना हुआ है और आपने एक प्रकार से आपकी आर्थिक राजधानी में कार्यक्रम बना करके भारत और न्यूजीलैंड के संबंधों को एक नई ताकत देने का एक अवसर पैदा किया है और इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं। न्यूजीलैंड के लोगों के बीच आकर उनका भारत के प्रति जो स्नेह है, ये देखकर कोई भी व्यक्ति बहुत ही भावुक हो जाता है और मेरे मन को छूने वाला है और इसके लिए भी मैं बहुत आपका आभारी हूं। ये हमारे संबंधों में एक ऐतिहासिक पड़ाव है जो हमारे संबंधों की नई ऊर्जा, हमारी मित्रता के नए संकल्प को दोहराने वाला है। आप जब भारत आए थे और एफटीए के शुरुआत हुई और इतने कम समय में पूरा न्यूजीलैंड एक साथ होकर के एफटीए को जमीन पे उतारना इतने कम शायद ये दुनिया में पहली बार इतने कम समय में ये सफलता हुई होगी। और इसके लिए मैं आपके नेतृत्व को, आपकी सरकार को, आपकी टीम को हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। पिछले वर्ष आप होली के समय भारत आए थे। आपकी यात्रा ने हमारे संबंधों में भी नए रंग भर दिए थे, क्योंकि होली के रंग की अपनी एक अहमियत होती है और उसका हमें अनुभव हुआ। मुझे खुशी है आज हम अपने संबंधों का स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के सूत्र में बांधने जा रहे हैं। यह माइलस्टोन हमें और अधिक ऊर्जा और अधिक विश्वास के साथ आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करेगा। एक्सेलेंसी, लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों के में दृढ़ विश्वास हमें नेचुरल पार्टनर बनाता है। मेड फॉर ईच अदर जैसा है ये। और दूसरी प्रकार से दो मैरीटाइम देश के रूप में हमारा करीबी सहयोग इंडो पैसिफिक को एक नई ताकत देता है और शांति के हमारे जो लक्ष्य हैं उसको अचीव करने में हमारे संबंध एक नई ऊर्जा भर सकते हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि मेरी इस यात्रा से हम हमारे द्विपक्षीय संबंधों को और मजबूती देंगे और वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और सुरक्षा में हम मिल करके अपना योगदान बढ़ाएंगे।
Well, let's in the meantime also talk about what Prime Minister Luxon has said, underlining the growing momentum between India-New Zealand ties and describing the economic partnership between the two countries with the immense potential. He has also welcomed the progress on the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, announcing New Zealand's decision to eliminate tariffs on 50% of its exports to India. Well, that seems to be the pictures and the post that has been shared by the New Zealand Prime Minister. And Thansha, if you can delve more into that, because New Zealand, India, he says, bookend the Indo-Pacific, but when we speak of the distance where he says is no barrier when it comes to coming together and the growth that will be accorded to both economies.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, as we speak, the joint statement between India and New Zealand is also out, and it has focus on very many areas. Of course, apart from the obvious ones that were expected were on trade, people-to-people ties. And yes, India and New Zealand have elevated this to a strategic partnership, which you have already discussed. But very interesting are the parts where both the Prime Ministers have expressed concerns with regards to the freedom of navigation in sea routes, and that is, of course, they've also mentioned the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. To just quickly quote what the joint statement says, Amita, it says they call for a full restoration of freedom of navigation and the global flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz while opposing any constraints on shipping. So there has clearly been concern shared when it comes to this renewed escalation that the world is currently staring at in the Middle East. That has very much featured over here. The New Zealand Prime Minister has also condemned the attacks on India in Pahalgam and, of course, the Red Fort blast last year as well. So India is also looking towards greater cooperation with New Zealand when it comes to security and perhaps even intel sharing. There's a mention on how they both now intend to join hands when it comes to multilateral forums like the UN and even the FATF. So security, interestingly, has appeared as a significant aspect in the joint statement, and that always has been a cornerstone to India's bilateral engagements as well. You speak about, and you've asked about how this is going to be taken forward now.
Yes.
Maritime awareness domain is where the Indo-Pacific will see a new map growing for India, and the countries that are going to be contributing significantly are going to be Australia, Indonesia and New Zealand. The three-nation tour henceforth becomes equally important. Other countries that India could also be looking towards are going to be Vietnam, Singapore, and even Japan. So maritime domain awareness is not just about providing security, but as the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, remember, has highlighted, it's about being aware where the submarines are, where the survey ships are, given China has already made those indications when we've been, made aware of threats where their survey ships have been parked around the Andamans. There have been submarines spotted off the coast of Karachi. So India wants all of that security domain awareness to be working through, because the Pacific Ocean now becomes a huge target, not just for us over here, but even for New Zealand. There are growing concerns towards China, because I can tell you that there were live fire drills conducted by China in the Tasman Sea last year in February, which was a huge concern for New Zealand. And New Zealand cannot call it out loud, but it is de-risking over here. There was, just to quickly make that point, there was a strategic comprehensive partnership that Cook Island, which is heavily associated with New Zealand, signed with China. And this was to do with seabed minerals and infrastructure building. So by looking towards India, New Zealand is de-risking away from China, even though China happens to be its largest bilateral trading partner at the moment.
Absolutely, and that too happened without consultation. Just to add to that, and that is why the possible China risk is something that both countries, however, without looking to pick a side, we are now looking at as far as the coming together, and the strategic partnership, however, has made it to the joint statement. But more importantly, in a breaking update, we're just going to put out and highlight it, in more prominently. When we speak of a stand against terrorism, this is something that has also been highlighted in the joint statement, and we'll just put out the details, where the two leaders have reiterated their absolute condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including cross-border terrorism. And both leaders have condemned in the strongest terms the terrorist attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, and also the Red Fort incident on the 10th of November 2025. And Srinjoy, this is now coming in for a zero-tolerance, consistent approach towards terrorism, and also for the disruption of terrorism and their financing networks and safe havens, and also dismantling of terror infrastructure. Well, this has now come across as two leaders have agreed when it comes to strengthening cooperation and combating terrorism.
Any country that opposes cross-border terrorism is a country India is very happy with, because this is the problem India has been facing from 1989 or so. So that's a lot of years, 37 years, India has been worrying and combating cross-border terrorism. Now, even New Zealand, far away from India, 12,000 kilometers away from India. But even New Zealand realizes the implications of cross-border terrorism. If terrorism can hit India, it can hit any country in the world, because terrorism has no frontiers. You have seen terrorist attacks in every part of the world, United States most famously, and also all over Europe, Britain, France, all these, Spain, and it has also reached the Far East. So as a result, terrorism is a permanent issue virtually, and this is something the world is trying to combat. So here you have New Zealand and India saying that, look here, cross-border terrorism is not something we like. Cross-border terrorism has to be combated. And not just cross-border terrorism, everything that leads to it, the financing of terrorism, and all the information that goes through in various forms, particularly in the social media, that has to be combated. So here, India and New Zealand, New Delhi and Wellington are on the same page. And this is a crucial agreement between both sides that terrorism has to be fought. And the fact that cross-border terrorism, a clear reference to Pakistan, has been made, suggests that both countries are very close today. And as you would expect, you've just signed an agreement.
If I would, add to that, because when we see India engaging and talking about terrorism and cross-border terrorism in particular, of course, there is condemnation when it comes to terrorist attacks. But naming and incidents that have happened And of course, when it comes to the reasons why India had to initiate action in its self-defense, and the support that openly comes in from other countries is something that matters more. And what has now been said, according to this joint statement, that the leaders have welcomed the signing of an MOA, which establishes a joint working group on counter-terrorism, which will actually provide a framework for information and also when it comes to sharing of knowledge. Now, there is another angle that we would want to add to that, because the maritime outlook that has also significantly changed. And this is something that is also made a part of the strategic, when it comes to the partnership that we are now looking at. So when we take a look exactly how we go back in time between India-New Zealand ties, now this seems to be a timeline, because it was back in 1950s that the diplomatic relations had been established. And in 1952, the Indian High Commission was set up. Then it was in 1968 when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi visited New Zealand. And then in 86, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi visited New Zealand. So from 86 now to 2026, in about 40 years, now we are looking at the next Indian Prime Minister going to New Zealand. And then in 2010, there was a formal free trade deal, the talks that began. And it was Pranab Mukherjee's historic visit there. Of course, when it comes to a 5-year partnership plan that was launched, and thereafter, when it comes to the recent visit of President Draupadi Murmu to New Zealand, and then just last year in March, Prime Minister of New Zealand, Christopher Luxon, had visited India, and a key defense pact was also inked. And of course, when we talk about the free trade agreement, the push that has now been given to both countries there, that has been signed. So this seems to be, of course, a part of this first visit, of course, of Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well since assuming office, that the significance is now being attached. Let's in the meantime also talk about the renewed escalations of tensions in the Middle East is something that has also made a part of this joint tension and its joint statement. And it seems that both countries have come out to say that they support dialogue and de-escalation. And of course, when it comes to ensuring protection of civilians, and this is something where there are a lot of Indian interest in the Gulf region. So both countries have now called for a full restoration of freedom of navigation and the global flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz. Because why it seems to be all the more important, Akansha, to find an alternative. Because yes, the Strait of Hormuz that controls nearly 20% of the movement of, the natural gas and the oils that is now needed for several countries for the continuous flow there. Of course, the world has been impacted, whether they are directly or indirectly involved or not even involved in the Middle Eastern, region. But there needs to be an alternative that can be provided. The importance of dialogue and diplomacy, yes, there is, but also when it comes to adherence of international law, that is also something which is necessary for lasting peace.
Oh, absolutely. And that is what Prime Ministers of New Zealand and India have both expressed, even in the joint statement, as you rightly highlighted. To be alluding to the situation in the Strait of Hormuz only goes on to indicate how this has now become a global worry at the moment when sea trade routes are being attacked. And as far as finding a solution to everlasting peace is concerned, both India and New Zealand are of the view that dialogue and diplomacy must take place. But can it take place at the moment, when there's been a lot of back and forth between the United States and Iran? Right now, we are seeing a war of rhetoric that's currently playing out as far as the tensions in West Asia are concerned. India, of course, has been guarding its own interests. Interestingly enough, External Affairs Minister is also on a West Asian tour as we speak. He's just wrapped up his visit to Oman yesterday, where he thanked the Sultanate of Oman for looking out for the safety and security of Indian seafarers. Remember, Oman has in fact been playing a very significant role when it comes to, rescuing these seafarers. And apart from the fact that it has a role to play in the rescue of these seafarers and looking out for their safety and security, it is also going to be dividing the overall control over the Strait of Hormuz with Iran. And because the strait is divided between the Strait of Oman and, of course, Iran. So, yes, there are concerns over here. India can play that bridge, and perhaps even New Zealand is very mindful of that fact, which is why there's a mention of this in the joint declaration. But as of now, it doesn't seem like the situation has had any positive momentum as far as the Middle East tensions are concerned.
Yes.
No mediators have been able to step in and remind both the countries to come back to the talking table.
Absolutely, because when we talk about as far as the highlights that have now been drawn, in this joint statement, and we are just putting out one by one as far as the key takeaways are concerned, that includes political and diplomatic engagements, that also talks about when it comes to the formal ceremonies that have also concluded. We are also looking at trade and economic cooperation. We're also looking at when it comes to countering terrorism, people, culture and support, and the Prime Minister who has welcomed continued deepening cultural cooperation between two sides. Education, research and science and technology have also made it to the joint statement, and regional multilateral cooperation is also something that has been added. So a quick takeaways of this joint statement that has now been released. We'll just put out and summarize. Now, strategic partnership that has been announced formally between India and New Zealand, and of course a roadmap to 2030 that has been adopted, the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement that has been signed, and the trade target is now as far as 7 billion New Zealand dollars by 2030. And when we speak of new defense and maritime pacts, there is also an annual maritime security dialogue that would be convened, and openly condemning the terror attack that happened in Pahalgam and also in the national capital in the Red Fort area. New Zealand has also backed India's UNSC push, and this push also for direct India-New Zealand flights as well. Also, when we speak of the joint condemnation that has now come in against terrorism, is something that both sides are agreeing to share that partnership and to share knowledge. And of course, when it comes to counter-smuggling as well, that has also been made a part of this joint statement between the two sides. So the engagements that has been continuing in New Zealand, as the Prime Minister is expected soon to wrap up his visit to Auckland as well. Of course, the traditional Maori welcome that was given to the Prime Minister, that also shows the cultural and the people-to-people connect that has been visible, especially when it comes to this current visit of the Prime Minister in about 40 years. Thank you very much, Srinjoy and Akansha, for joining us. All right, I'm told that there are live pictures that are now coming in of the engagements that continue in New Zealand. So we'll just get you those.
To India in my mid-20s, and it's because I worked for a company called Unilever, which of course owned Hindustan Lever, which was a top 10 company in India. And I remember going to India in the mid to late 90s, and people got paid daily in their wages in coins in their hand. And it's interesting to me that under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, he has lifted 250 million people out of poverty. There is now 440 million people in the middle class, about to be 750 million by the end of the decade, and it is an incredible transformation. When we first sat down together back in Laos, you kindly told me that you'd done 147 airports, I think, in a very short period of time. You needed 2,000 more aircraft just to manage your domestic tourism, and you were opening up universities and polytechnics on a regular basis. And as someone who has been to India many times, and to see the move from low income to middle income to high income, it is just so inspiring and so exciting to see the transformation that has taken place. And of course, as the 1.4 billion Indian community in India get wealthier, we have the food and the produce that we can sell them. We have the tourism experiences. We also have fantastic educational institutions here. And there's a lot that we can do in technology. As I reminded the Prime Minister this morning, I said, you know us as an agricultural nation, but we are now the third biggest launcher of rockets in the world. And so we think there's lots of areas for us to collaborate. What I'd say is that the Prime Minister and I, in a government sense, at a top-to-top level, have created a free trade agreement. And we can create the conditions for growth, but it's all of you in this room as the business leaders that ultimately go off and create that growth. And that growth becomes the wealth by which we lift the living standards of people, both here in New Zealand and in India. I'm a big fan of a man called Viktor Frankl, And he very famously wrote this book that I read when I was younger about the three big actors in our society: government, setting up the operating system for our country, business leaders moving with great speed, scale and execution, and our community leaders who actually see the pain, the hurt, the need, the frustration in our communities. And it's the three actors in our society that need to come together to realise the huge opportunities that India and New Zealand have together. So I just encourage all of you, thank you very much for participating. As business-to-business leaders, this responsibility for this relationship also sits with you. And we wish you all the very best as you open up new markets and new opportunities by working together. To the New Zealand businesses in the room and those that may be watching, can I say, get on a plane and go learn the Indian consumer. They are the most discerning, some of the most discerning consumers in the world. Learn about the markets, find the right partners, understand how to tailor your product and service in order to be able to create opportunity both in India and here in New Zealand as well. So again, thank you very, very much for being here today. Thank you very much for all the commitment that you have made to advancing this relationship. Dhanyavad.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, भारत और न्यूजीलैंड के बिजनेस लीडर्स, आप सबको मेरा नमस्कार। कियोरा। ऑकलैंड में आप सबके बीच आकर मुझे बहुत प्रसन्नता हो रही है। मैं प्रधानमंत्री लक्ष्मण का उनके सकारात्मक विचारों और भारत के प्रति उनकी गहरी प्रतिबद्धता के लिए विशेष आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। आप सभी की उपस्थिति न्यूजीलैंड की इनोवेशन, एंटरप्राइज और फ्यूचर ओरिएंटेड सोच का प्रतीक है। भारत की ओर से मैं 140 करोड़ लोगों की एस्पिरेशंस और एम्बिशंस का संदेश लेकर आया हूं। फ्रेंड, यह बैठक ऐसे समय में हो रही है जब भारत और न्यूजीलैंड के संबंध एक टर्निंग पॉइंट पर है। आज हम अपने संबंधों को स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के सूत्र में बांध रहे हैं। यह केवल एक डिप्लोमेटिक माइलस्टोन नहीं है, यह हमारे साझा भविष्य का एक नया संकल्प है। इस वर्ष दोनों देशों के बीच 9 महीनों के रिकॉर्ड समय में फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट किया है। यह आप सभी के लिए मार्केट एक्सेस, इन्वेस्टमेंट, सर्विसेज, टेक्नोलॉजी और टैलेंट मोबिलिटी के नए अवसर लेकर आएगा। मुझे विश्वास है कि नए जोश और उत्साह के साथ काम करते हुए हम 2030 तक द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को दोगुना बढ़ाएंगे। न्यूजीलैंड द्वारा अगले 15 वर्षों में भारत में $20 बिलियन का इन्वेस्टमेंट कमिटमेंट किया गया है। यह केवल निवेश का नहीं है, बल्कि भारत की विकास यात्रा में सहभागी बनने का भी कमिटमेंट है। फ्रेंड्स, आज भारत दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकोनॉमी है। हमारी बढ़ती मिडिल क्लास, लार्ज स्केल डिजिटल एडॉप्शन और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पुश भारत को एक यूनिक ग्रोथ स्टोरी बनाते हैं। भारत में हमने रिफॉर्म, परफॉर्म और ट्रांसफॉर्म को गवर्नेंस का आधार बनाया है। आज भारत में पॉलिसी स्टेबिलिटी है, पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी है और ग्रोथ की कंटिन्यूटी है। इसलिए आज विश्व को हमारा संदेश है, इंडिया इज नॉट ओनली अ मार्केट, इंडिया is a launch pad for global growth. भारत में बन रहे इन अवसरों का लाभ उठाने के लिए मैं कुछ उदाहरण आपके सामने रखना चाहूंगा। भारत में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को बढ़ावा देने के लिए हमने प्रोडक्शन लिंक इंसेंटिव स्कीम शुरू की है, पीएलआई। इसके अंतर्गत फूड प्रोसेसिंग से लेकर टेक्सटाइल जैसे 14 सेक्टर्स में लगभग $20 बिलियन का सपोर्ट दिया जा रहा है। मैं आप सभी को इस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मोमेंटम का हिस्सा बनने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। भारत में एयरपोर्ट्स, रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी, एयर कार्गो और टूरिज्म तेजी से बढ़ रहे हैं। भारत आज दुनिया का तीसरा सबसे बड़ा डोमेस्टिक एविएशन मार्केट है। हम मिलकर कार्गो कॉरिडोर्स, फ्लाइट कनेक्टिविटी और ज्वाइंट टूरिज्म पैकेजेस बना सकते हैं। कीवी, एप्पल्स, हनी और सी फूड के लिए पेरिशेबल कार्गो सॉल्यूशंस विकसित किए जा सकते हैं। न्यूजीलैंड के पास हॉर्टिकल्चर, डेयरी साइंस और फॉरेस्ट्री में विशाल एक्सपर्टीज है। भारत के पास कंज्यूमर मार्केट, फूड पार्क्स और एग्रीटेक टैलेंट की ताकत है। हम मिलकर फार्म टू मार्केट, वैल्यू चेन्स और ग्लोबल एक्सपोर्ट प्लेटफॉर्म बना सकते हैं। फिनटेक में आज भारत ग्लोबल लीडर है। आज दुनिया की 50% रियल टाइम डिजिटल पेमेंट्स भारत में होती है। हम डिजिटल पेमेंट्स के साथ साथ ग्रीन बॉन्ड में भी आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। हमने स्पेस सेक्टर को प्राइवेट पार्टिसिपेशन के लिए खोल दिया है। आज भारत में 400 से अधिक स्पेस स्टार्टअप्स है और अब तो एक यूनिकॉर्न भी बन गई है। दोनों देशों की कंपनियां भारत के स्पेस इकोसिस्टम के साथ मिलकर स्मॉल सैटेलाइट्स, रिमोट सेंसिंग और ओशन मॉनिटरिंग में काम कर सकते हैं। भारत में स्मार्ट सिटीज मिशन के अंतर्गत 100 सिटीज में 8,000 से अधिक प्रोजेक्ट पर काम हो रहा है। हम मिलकर अर्बन मोबिलिटी, वाटर मैनेजमेंट, वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट जैसे क्षेत्रों में काम कर सकते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, मैं माओरी बिजनेस लीडर्स का विशेष अभिनंदन करता हूं। भारत की सभ्यता और माओरी ट्रेडिशन दोनों में प्रकृति, समुदाय और सस्टेनेबिलिटी के प्रति गहरा सम्मान है। हमारे एफटीए में भी माओरी बिजनेसेस के लिए अवसरों को विशेष स्थान दिया गया है। हमारी इन साझा मूल्यों को जोड़कर हम इंक्लूसिव एंड सस्टेनेबल ट्रेड का नया मॉडल बना सकते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, मेरा सुझाव है कि हम मिलकर एक बहुत ही एम्बिशियस बिजनेस रोड मैप बनाएं। अपनी स्ट्रेंथ को जोड़ते हुए हम कम से कम 5 फ्लैगशिप प्रोजेक्ट्स की पहचान करें और उन्हें समयबद्ध तरीके से पूरा करने के लिए रिव्यू मैकेनिज्म बनाएं। तभी हम अपने संबंधों के पूरे पोटेंशियल को रियलाइज कर सकेंगे और दोनों देशों के लोगों की आकांक्षाओं और अपेक्षाओं पर खरे उतर सकेंगे। मैं आप सभी को इस यात्रा में कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चलने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। लेट अस मेक अवर पार्टनरशिप अ प्लेटफॉर्म फॉर प्रॉस्पेरिटी, ए ब्रिज फॉर इनोवेशन एंड ए फोर्स फॉर ग्लोबल गुड। और मैं चाहता हूं कि न्यूजीलैंड और भारत मिलकर के एक नई शक्ति के रूप में उभरे। और मेरा एक और आग्रह है, जैसा अभी आपने बताया कि खेल के हमारे संबंधों के 100 साल हो रहे हैं। ये बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण इवेंट है, इसको तो हम मनाएंगे, लेकिन क्या कभी ये सोच सकते हैं कि 35 से कम उम्र के बिजनेसमैन ऐसा एक बड़ा डेलीगेशन भारत आए और भारत से भी 35 से नीचे की उम्र का एक बिजनेस डेलीगेशन न्यूजीलैंड आए, ताकि हम एक नई पीढ़ी को हम तैयार करें। इसी एक शुभकामना के साथ आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Well, meeting the business delegations, there is an interaction that has been taking place between the Prime Ministers of India and New Zealand. And the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just concluded his address and, of course, talking about India, because he says that India is not only a market but also a launchpad for global growth. And India is world's third largest domestic aviation market as well. In fintech, India is a global leader, and 50% of the world's digital payments happen in India. And of course, when it comes to the MTA, multiple opportunities are given to businesses as well. So, Akansha, quick highlight why the Prime Minister has been explaining that the relationship between India and New Zealand is at a turning point.
Oh, absolutely, because remember, this is something that has been of prime concern to India when it comes to diversifying its trade partnerships, and especially with countries which have been heavily dependent on other Asian superpowers like China, and New Zealand happens to be one of them. So in the joint statement and in all of those addresses that have been delivered by Prime Ministers of New Zealand and Prime Minister Modi, we've been able to sort of pick on this point that they are looking towards increasing trade, doubling up in terms of trades in goods and services, with up to $7 billion is the target in the year 2030. But to speak specifically of this event, I think this event has been extremely significant because it embodies the entire gamut of this bilateral relationship, where both the Prime Ministers have in fact not just invited business leaders to invest in each other's countries, but you've also seen how sports has been a cornerstone of today's event over here, where Prime Minister Modi also spoke about how there should be an exchange of delegations, whether it is sports or even business members. So such is the nature of this relationship, which now seems to be growing from strength to strength. It would be interesting to see how both the countries are able to forge stronger ties when it comes to our people-to-people ties. Is there going to be greater mobility for students who are now looking towards securing not just, say, study visas, but also go on and procure work visas after they finish, say, their education in the New Zealand universities. There's culture, which has, of course, also featured. You highlighted aviation, because so far New Zealand and India did not have any direct flights, but after Prime Minister's visit, that also has found a place in the MOUs that have been forged between both the countries.
Absolutely. And speaking on defense and security cooperation, I'm just going through the joint statement, Shinjoy. This is something that has been agreed by both sides, highlighting the cooperation under a combined task force 150. And with New Zealand in command and India as a deputy commander, we are looking at supporting efforts when it comes to deterring narcotics, smuggling, terrorism, illicit maritime activity. And this is coming both in the Middle East and the Western Indian Ocean.
It's a particularly important issue because this is whenever maritime security and all these words come up, actually they are all euphemisms for China, and also the fact that there is serious problems. First of all, the Strait of Hormuz issue. Now, it has suddenly been closed, and then it's opened, then it's closed again, affecting traffic, affecting energy security. Now, the worry is, and all countries, India, New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, all these countries are worried that someone somewhere will close something else. And that will hurt, or that could hurt maritime security even more, which is why the emphasis on maritime security, because it has happened once. And we have seen, we have suffered as much as we have. And so have other countries. All the countries that need LNG, that need petroleum, have suffered because the Strait of Hormuz was closed.
Yes.
And it could be closed again. Now, the problem is, someone else somewhere will close another strait. What happens then? How much does it affect India or any other country? So this is something that all these countries are keeping in mind. And you've rightly spoken about drug smuggling, about piracy. These are things that every country is worried about. And terrorism, as is clearly mentioned in the joint statement, because if there is a terrorist attack, let's say in India, in Pahalgam, what stops the terrorist from doing something in Christchurch or Wellington or Auckland?
Well, because this is outrightly, and it has been named in the joint statement, so it gains a lot more significance. Because when it comes to cross-border terrorism, why was it necessary for India to launch Operation Sindoor? And in its self-defense, well, this seems to have been made a part of this joint statement. And Invest in India is a call that the Prime Minister has also been making while meeting with the business delegates in New Zealand, as the pictures that are now coming in from Auckland. As we stay with the coverage, just heading into a very short break. Of course, this is a live coverage and an extensive one that we are getting of the Prime Minister's today's engagements in New Zealand.